Following his win this past weekend on the PGA Tour, which marked his 6th of his PGA Tour career, we're going to take a deep dive look into the golf swing of Russell Henley. Now that was, as I say, his 6th victory on the tour, and that win has put him into the PGA Tour's top 20 of all time on the money list. So a phenomenal player, definitely someone who flies a bit under the radar for the amount of success that he has achieved. But looking forward to getting stuck into his technique today. There's a lot that you can learn from it, and some very achievable positions that you can try and rob from Russell's technique and apply diligently into your own swing. From a setup perspective, we've got some nice simple checkpoints from Russell that you can take inspiration from. If we look at his posture here, we can see his lower back is nice and neutral. There's no excessive rounding or arching from that lumbar spine. And as we look further up the spine, we can see the thoracic rounds out gently on his upper back, and that puts him in a position where he can let his hands and arms hang naturally beneath the shoulders. And a common question I'll often get from amateurs on the lesson C is how far out or how far close to them should their hands be at the setup position. So a nice checkpoint just to make sure things are nice and connected. If they are stretching too far out away from you, things can tend to get a bit disconnected in the golf swing. So let's say if your hands were in this territory here, so not being directly underneath the shoulders, you're going to typically see the shafts and how the club head sits on the ground also change as well, and that can be very problematic for a lot of amateurs. So if their hands were in that red circle outside of directly underneath the shoulders, we would then see the shafts hit more through the belly button area as opposed to Russell. If I try and sketch in a line straight through his golf shaft here as perfectly as I can here, we can see that extension up through the butt end of the grip. For a reference point of how you want that club to sit on the ground, we can see it goes through the belt buckle for Russell. If golfers tend to be too close to the legs, again, a very common problem you can see from amateurs is that their setup is poor in that the hands are either too far or too close. If they were too close and in on top of the legs, that would influence the shafts to be more so as a checkpoint to watch out for, to make sure you don't end up doing this, because it can seriously hurt your strike consistency, is that it can hit that extension of the shaft through on this reference line here. It can go through the thigh instead. So keep things nice and simple. You want to have if we get rid of some of these lines again here, you want to see that the hands are directly underneath the shoulders, and that butt end of the grip from an extension out through that, it would be through the belt buckle area, like so. As we look to slowly bring Russell into the top of his backswing position here, one thing you're going to notice is the club face is slightly closed to the shaft, like so. As we zoom in here a little bit, we can see that lead wrist is very flat, so very neutral here, which is why the club face is relatively square. It is a little on the strong side. As a checkpoint, we can see here that it is visible on the right side of the shaft as we look at it. So for someone out there keen to draw the golf ball, this can be a nice checkpoint to try and emulate here in your own golf swing. You can hit fades from that position. Of course, it all depends on how you work your way into the ball from here. If we look at Russell's lead arm, we can see it's above that of his shoulder plane and their inclination down to the ground. And if we rewind things here a little bit, we're going to be able to identify the moments where those arms start to lift a little bit on the way back. That causes them to be above the shoulder plane here. So as we slowly bring Russell back here, nice takeaway checkpoints, as by the time things reach P2, position 2 in the golf swing where the shaft is level to the ground, we see the club head directly in line with the hands here. And as we continue to bring Russell up, what you'll notice to this point is there's a change in the knee flex, a gradual change in that the trail knee is getting a little bit straighter as the lead knee is flexing to facilitate the hip turn as things make their way up to the top. Now, what you'll notice from here is that right knee doesn't straighten much more past this stage here. So All things being equal, the more a player straightens their trail knee, that encourages depth during the backswing, so those hands to work in around the spine. But because right about here you can see that trail knee isn't straightening much more from here, then what he does to get himself to the top is those arms start to rise a little bit here. You can see that little bit of a lift here that just gets the lead arm above that of the shoulder plane. As we work Russell into the downswing here, from a sequencing standpoint, a nice checkpoint to keep an eye on is by the time he reaches P5, position 5 in the golf swing, where that lead arm reaches level to the ground again here, you're noticing from a sequencing standpoint that his knee flex has almost perfectly re-hit the position in terms of the amount of flex that they had at the starts by the time he's reaching this halfway down in the downswing points. As we continue to play things on, for a lot of golfers who are ambitious enough to try and put the work in to improve their own swing, this can be quite an achievable impact position for you to get into. We're not seeing crazy levels of rotation as he comes through. When we look at the belt line and shoulder line here, and that position with the trail foot, you can see the heel is a little bit up off the ground here. The problem with a lot of amateurs by impact, hence why a lot of people, that particularly high handicap golfers, struggle with a big slice, is that that trail foot gets very airborne very quickly in the downswing. They see that lead heel get up too quickly, it spins out, and the hips fire way open, and it encourages the club path to work heavily across the ball. A very swipey, weak delivery of the club into impact, as opposed to we can see that trail foot hasn't gotten up a great deal by this stage, which is encouraging the body to not spin open excessively. And when we look at the forearm configuration as well here, we can see that from this camera angle down the line, that the lead arm is viewable above the trail arm, and there's still a little bit of angle in that right arm as well. As we continue to play things on, you'll see the first thing to be hidden from the club as we come post impact is that of the grip, but we can still see the club head visible. So a great reference point if someone is looking to improve their club paths, it can be a very helpful checkpoint, this one here, where you give yourself the cue of trying to hide the grip and still keep the club head visible. As we continue to play things on here, we see the shaft exits relatively low, well beneath the lead shoulder. Again, another nice checkpoint for an amateur golfer who's looking to work on improving their path that the club is working on. And also you will find typically this can improve your strike quite a bit. A lot of amateur golfers have a very high exit where the club comes through the neck, and what you're seeing, or what you're not really seeing because it's a down the line camera view, but what's happening here to encourage that shaft to be working across the body like we've seen here from Russell is adduction of the right arm. Adduction being the technical term, but just meaning it's moving across the midline of the body. And we see that right arm appear here. That can also be very helpful for speed production because you're tapping into some angular momentum as that right arm works across the body, across the shoulder plane here. And as we conclude Russell's swing here, you can see again that right foot by this point has gotten all the way up onto the toe in a fairly textbook position. But again, crucially, a really important checkpoint is his route into the golf ball doesn't see that right foot get up, and it's not until well into the follow through we can see here his hands are starting to get even above the shoulder at this point, and you can see the angle that's in that trail foot. It still hasn't got that heel in a position where it was above the toes. Again, we see that about at this point. And then again, casually finishes in a very balanced, well poised follow through. And no surprise when you dive into the details here for Russell Henley's action to see exactly why it's earned 6 PGA Tour career victories to this point. If you've enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe buttons. It really helps with the growth of the channel, but it also just ensures that you won't miss out on any future content coming from myself here on the channel, of which there's plenty lined up to be released very shortly. For any golfer who has stayed until the end of a lengthy video like this, which is quite detailed, orientated, and very heavy on the educational side of things when it comes to the golf swing, you strike me as someone who is serious about learning and serious about finding ways to improve their own golf. If that is the case, then you can reach out and connect with myself today, regardless of where you are in the world. My name is Seán. I'm a PGA professional and I specialize in teaching the full swing, and I help golfers worldwide through an app called Skillest that I use for my online coaching, help players reach their full potential tee to green. The online program that I run on Skillest that helps people of all ages and all skill levels reach their full potential tee to green is called the Long Game Transformation Program. The minimum commitment for this program for students looking to sign up is that of a 3-month period. Often is the case where students want to continue on long beyond this point because they've seen the value in it, their game has seen the improvements, and they want to continue to push the boundaries and see what's possible. But let's say that you only wanted to sign up for the first 3 months. Here is exactly what I can promise you will learn. You will learn the 3 fundamentals required to completely transform your long game, and that is strike, direction, and distance. The first, in strike, you need the ability to control your low points. Second of all, when we touch on direction, you need to be able to have a predictable curve and a consistent shot shape that you can rely on out on the course. And third is distance. You need to be able to know how to pump enough distance into your game to be competitive at the level of this sport that you desire to play at. This program is designed to give you as much support as you need. There's nothing pre-recorded. Everything is personalized to the individual. There's open communication channels that you can message me whenever you want. Anytime you have a question, you can message me. There's unlimited feedback on the program. And if you're ever in doubt as to whether you're doing a drill correctly or whatever the case may be, you can message me and get feedback within a turnaround time of never any more than 24 hours. If you're ready to start improving today, I will leave a link underneath the video in the description box where you can download Skillest. Alternatively, you can search for it on the App Store and get started on your improvement journey today. If you want in-person coaching with myself in Ireland, I also work with players based in Ireland online, but if you'd like in-person coaching, you can see my booking diary on my website, seanmarksgolf.com. So I look forward to seeing you, whether it's in person or remotely online, very soon.